What's up guys, it's LPS Gigafort here, but you can call me Linus, and are there small things about your LPS that you want to change? Would you like to make an LPS custom, but a full body custom just seems
far too scary?
Well, that's why I'm here. Today I'm starting a brand new series where I show you how to customize small things about your LPS. We're gonna start with this video, which will be about removing factory paint and adding other paint details. I'm going to be using this guy for this video. So I'm going to remove the paint details above his eyes, plus his eyeliner, and also his belly, which will look like this. Then I'm going to add paint details. I'm going to paint his belly and his snout, which will look like this. But you can use my techniques here on any LPS. The part about removing factory paint is just about to start, but before it does, I'm gonna tell all of you that this video has chapters in it, so if you already know how to remove factory paint, feel free to skip to the next chapter about painting on your LPS. Okay, so you've likely heard of this technique before, but I'm going to go over everything really quickly with removing factory paint. First off, you will need a high acetone nail polish remover. I'm using 100% pure acetone, and you will also need Q-tips. So what I do to start is I remove the cap from my bottle of acetone, then I pour into the cap. So what you want to do when you have your Q-tip and you're removing factory paint is have like a really wet side and then a pretty dry side. You're going to start with the really wet side, removing like notice there's more factory paint on the stomach than there is on the eyes, so we're going to start with the stomach. You just rub in little circular motions like you're brushing your little teeth. So you're gonna kind of do a couple like rounds, I call them, of using acetone, which I consider like one round a Q-tip. And as you can see, there is still factory paint smeared all over his stomach. That's just fine. We're gonna start with the eyeballs. This is where that dry side comes in. Sometimes when you remove the factory paint with your like really wet side, it's gonna drip down, and you don't want it to drip on the areas that you're not removing paint. So this is step one, basically. This looks like a hot mess, doesn't it? We want this to kind of dry for a minute, because if we continue right now, it's just gonna keep smearing the paint and growing, and it's gonna be all gross. And now we ready our next Q-tip. I usually have about like 3 rounds to do. Like, this second layer removes a lot more of the color, but it is still smearing stuff around. This is the round where, in the end, it's gonna have a lot of stuff in the creases, and you will finish that on your third round, which is, like, the final kinda end of it. I don't know. And now we let that dry again. So yeah, as you can see, there's still some green paint in the creases of his stomach. There's still a little bit of the paint like right next to his eyes. This is perfectly acceptable. Alright, this should be our final round. Third Q-tip. Yet again, we're gonna want that really wet side. And rub the belly. Wash my belly. And here's the final result. Well, not final, because I still gotta paint him, but the final result of the acetone removal. As you can see, we have just 3 Q-tips here. I think he looks really good bald. I was not a fan of the things above his eyes. And now we are going to paint him, which I showed in the intro will look like this. Alright, ignore how messy my space is. So the materials you want for painting your LPS are obviously acrylic paint, something to put this paint on, something to apply with, a paper towel, and water. Totally forgot to mention this, but you also want Mod Podge. First thing I'm gonna do is mix my color, then I'm gonna add a pretty good amount of water, and mix it up. After you mix your color, you're gonna want to put it like against the LPS, see if it's the color you're going for. So during almost the entire painting process of this guy, my dad was in the kitchen listening to Ben Shapiro videos, and I actually didn't want that in my video, so I'm muting this entire part. But basically, my paint is pretty watered down, and I'm applying thin layers to the walrus, letting them dry for a while, and then applying more layers. So there's about like 5 or so minutes between all of these clips, because when you have layers this thin, it really doesn't take that long for them to dry. You'll also notice that my paint job is extremely messy. I am not coloring within the lines. There is stuff all over the part of his stomach that shouldn't be colored, and all over the parts of his head that aren't his snout. This is totally fine, and it's kind of intentional. What I did after the paint was dry, and you'll see this in a minute, was I used toothpicks, and I scraped off the excess paint, which was very hard because it's acrylic paint on plastic. So if you want to use this same method, you could also use toothpicks, but I didn't mention it in the supplies because it's completely optional, and if you paint really cleanly, you will not need toothpicks. Another optional supply I didn't mention was the acetone and Q-tips yet again from earlier. However, you will also only need this if you use the toothpick method and you scrape things off. There might be like a little bit of extra color, and just to make sure everything's like nice and consistent, I rubbed that off with acetone. So now we're on my lap because it was actually pretty hard for me to see where I was painting with the setup I had. This was a lot easier for me to see, and you kind of need that when you're working with toothpicks and tiny details. But yeah, as you can see, I'm just scraping off some of the excess paint, wiping off the dust, and then afterwards, like I said, I'm gonna go in with some acetone. At this point of me filming, I was able to talk since my dad and his Ben Shapiro videos were out of the kitchen. However, knowing myself and my editing style, I knew that once I started doing a voiceover, it would be hard to stop and I would want to keep talking, so I stayed quiet. So some other videos for the series I had planned were changing the eye color, which I got all the footage from to do. I also have all the footage for changing the highlight in the eyes. I believe I'm going to combine both of those into one video just about customizing LPS eyes in general. I'm not sure what else I could add to that video though, so comment down below if there's anything you want to customize about LPS eyes that aren't the color or the shape of the highlight. I also might make a video about removing and adding actual parts of your LPS. So like say their leg was too big, you could cut it off and then make a like smaller leg, or say you want to add a little tuft of hair to the top of their head. I would love to make a video about doing that too. I'm not fully sure what else I can talk about right now. I've had this video being made for actually a couple weeks. Like this guy was customized a couple weeks ago as of November 2nd, 2025. I have uploaded 3 videos since this guy's been fully customized. I don't know why it's taken me so long to edit this video. Other ones I don't think will take me this long. Other ones probably won't take me this long. It's just that this is the first episode of like kind of a series that I'm figuring out how I want to structure things. And now that I know how I want to do things in the series, episodes should only take me a couple days to come out after the LPS is painted. I truthfully don't have anything else to talk about within the process of painting this guy, so just remember, keep your paint pretty thin and do like multiple layers and just be patient. And here is the final result. I think he turned out really nicely. I really like these colors a lot more. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. And if this is your first time watching one of my videos, check out some other stuff. And if you like that other stuff, consider subscribing. Bye! Usually I have a little funny moment to put at the end of the outro, but I have nothing this video. I didn't mess anything up that bad. Yay!